Begin this hour with a tale of two Chinas. Earlier today, Beijing officials flexed their military might with a parade in Beijing to celebrate 70 years in power. Well, at the very same time, tens of thousands took to the streets of Hong Kong in what's being called a day of rage. RT's Michele Greenstein has the latest now live in our newsroom. Michele.
That's right, Farron. It's National Day, the 70th anniversary of the founding of the People's Republic of China. Now, in China, this is a day of national pride with fireworks, a military parade, young people chanting "Long live our country," and President Xi Jinping giving an address at Tiananmen Square. But the anti-government movement in Hong Kong has long been looking forward to this day as an opportunity to spoil the celebrations. This morning, ceremonies began in Hong Kong as both the Chinese and the Hong Kong flags were raised, and acting chief executive Matthew Chung Kin-chung notes that China's improvements to the country's economy and strides in technology are highly impressive. He also comments that violence is never the answer, that the ongoing anti-government protests have undermined law and order and hurt the economy, but that the Hong Kong local government is committed to working to address deep-rooted social problems, including a lack of housing and a lack of upward mobility for the youth. Now, an hour later, a scuffle breaks out between anti-government marchers and people who criticize them and their slogans. Police use pepper spray to separate the groups. The police then arrest 5 people on the charge of conspiring to possess offensive weapons after finding materials used to make petrol bombs. Later, they arrested even more people after finding items like empty glass bottles, cloth strips, lighters, and goggles. Now, Farron, by noon, crowds had gathered for what they called a national grief march organized by the Civil Human Rights Front. The march had actually been banned by the Hong Kong police, but under the leadership of a political group called the Pan-Democrats, they chose to march anyway. Around 2 p.m., about a dozen riot police were seen being hit with umbrellas and sticks and having objects thrown at them by over 100 protesters. The police attempted to use pepper spray to disperse the crowd, but since these protesters are often in full protective gear and masks, it's to no effect, and the police are forced to retreat as tensions escalate. Now, throughout the afternoon, protesters smashed bus windows, they destroyed stores, they even set several fires in public spaces, and some protesters targeted a lawmaker to destroy his office. A small group even set portraits of Xi Jinping and Chief Executive Carrie Lam on fire. One protester who was involved in this event said he wanted to, quote, humiliate China on its national day. Now, overall, the use of both petrol bombs by the protesters and tear gas by the Hong Kong police becomes more frequent as the evening sets in. Police issued a statement on social media that some rioters used corrosive fluid to injure officers and journalists. This escalation of violence caused officers to start drawing their guns, and around 4 p.m., one protester is shot in the chest with a live round by the police officer. Now, a spokesperson for the Hong Kong police force said that the officer in question was under attack by violent rioters at the time who were threatening the officer's life. Now, Farron, this day of violence arrives during the 17th consecutive week of anti-government protests, a movement which has been criticized by many as an attempt by foreign forces such as the U.S. and its allies to capitalize on and co-opt both economic grievances and anti-China sentiments of Hong Kongers in furtherance of their own goals. One of those goals being the demonization of Beijing in the international eye. And while the fact that the first gunshot wound happened today after 17 weeks of this violence may reflect restraint by the Hong Kong police, some say that this is actually the strategy of these anti-government demonstrators, to push the police to their limits using violence and make sure the cameras are on when they respond. Farron?
Hey YouTube, thanks for checking out our channel. We hope you enjoyed the video. We have tons of content for you just like this. For more of RT America's one-of-a-kind news and analysis, be sure to subscribe and never stop questioning more.